So, glad to see you, Dr. Akhil Billa, Dr. Rashida Popat. Let us begin with Ellen's keynote study streak, and the remedy which I will be taking up is Agaricus. So, Agaricus is a very good nervous remedy. It acts on the brain and nervous system. Let us go further and explore it. Persons with light hair, skin and muscles which are lax. Delirium with constant raving, tries to get out of bed in typhoid or typhus. So there are two different things mentioned. One is the constitution or the appearance of the patient, which you can observe when he appears in your clinic, when he reaches your clinic, when you are in front, when he is in front of you. Second thing is about the delirium. Now there is constant raving or someone who tries to get out of bed. This state will come in deeper states of typhoid or deeper states of pathology, especially in fevers where the person does not want to be in the bed and wants to always run out of it. It can be any reason, he will find out. But this is a very deeper state. It may be observed in one out of so many of your patients. There are old people which will be more suitable to act with agaricus with weak and indolent circulation. Drunkards, especially for their headaches, bad effects after debauch. The other remedies we have always given nux vomica, there is lobelia inflata, and there is ranunculus bulbosus. There are a lot of remedies which we can give in cases where there is alcoholic uh, symptoms or bad effects of alcohol. We should think of all the possible remedies and individualize according to each case. But over here it is more deeper, it acts on the nervous system. You can see that there is uncertainty in walking, stumbling gait, stumbles over everything in the way, feels pain as if beaten when standing. So the person cannot stand and there is unwavering walk or something which is unsteady in nature. Nervous prostration after sexual debauches, extremely sensitive to cold air. The other remedies we know are Calcarea carb, Kali carb and Soranum. So cold sensitivity to the highest degree when we observe in our clinics, when we observe in different patients, we should think of agaricus also. We often tend to forget it because it's a neurological remedy. It's a remedy which is given in cases of insanity and deeper states of mind, but it can be thought of in this case as well as one of the interesting key symptom of agaricus, which you will see in extremities. Once I will reach that spot, I have cured that case. But before that, something which is very important we know is that there is extreme sensitivity to cold air. Complaints appear diagonally, upper left, lower right side, which are affected. So many times in our clinic, patients will come with something affecting the left side and then the right side, or something over here and then the opposite side. Think of remedies which will preferably act in this way, on those locations in this way, in this fashion, so that we will be able to reach the simillimum more effectively. This is a very peculiar symptom, characteristic symptom when there are complaints which are diagonally present. It can be upper left, lower right, which is there in agaricus, or antimtart and stemmonium, or upper right and lower left, which is there in umbra gricia, chromium, medorinum, phosphorus, and sulfuric acid. So those cases which you feel are more having complaints to one side in the upper body and other side in the lower body, think about remedies. Use this as an eliminating factor to rule out all the other remedies and use this as a prescriptive pointer. You know, one of the very main areas which homeopaths fail is to decide on what symptom you should use as a prescriptive pointer, whether it should be miasm, whether it should be physical general, whether it should be some PQRS symptom. It can be any predominant mental symptom, etc., etc. And this crosswise complaints which are present in agaricus and all the other remedies which I mentioned can be thought of as a symptom which is of prime importance and can be used to differentiate the other remedies and prescribe. So I'm glad to see Dr. Shreya, Cypher Homeopathy, Sheikh Nazir, Girija Sarange and Shri Jita Bhatt to join the Instagram live. This is Alan's Keynote Study Streak and I am doing it continuously since the 11th of June, picking up different remedies which are interrelated. Yesterday we discussed about Thuja, 2 days back we discussed about Miserium, and today we took little bit off track because there are some other remedies which have been isolated. One of them was Agaricus. So Agaricus has a very peculiar mind and physical generals which we covered. Coming to the headache symptoms, which is headache of those who are readily become delirious in fever or with pain, like the remedy belladonna, of persons subject to chorea, twitches, grimaces, spinal affections. Now, normally in a case which we get of headache, we will not think of agaricus. I do agree, but there will be a combination of component of symptoms. How will you prescribe agaricus? If there will be some neurological complaint along with the headache, if there will be some spinal affection with the headache, it can be into different areas, but if there is headache with the spinal affection, think of agaricus. In this way, you can make your own combination of symptoms from Allen's keynotes and use them to prescribe remedies based upon Allen's keynotes, because Materia Medica is going to be your final guide in prescribing the medicines. Nervous system, we see there are involuntary movements while awake, seize during sleep. So many times you see patients who have Parkinson's, patients who have neurological problems. It is more aggravated when they are awake, but when they are asleep, nothing is happening. Think of agaricus. Simple motions like jerks of muscles to dancing of the whole body, trembling of the whole body, you should think of agaricus. If it is only of one part, especially of the face, think of the remedy Michael. Spinal irritation due to sexual excesses, Califos is another remedy which is similar to agaricus in this sphere. If there is epilepsy from suppressed eruptions, so we saw vaccination causing suppressed eruptions or suppressed eruptions or skin problems due to vaccination, Miserium. But here there is a different scenario which is epilepsy from suppressed eruptions. How will you find out there is suppressed eruption? Somewhere in the history of the patient you will see that there is a skin problem which had appeared. This was cured using steroids, using other palliative mode of treatments, and in those cases after few months the epilepsy started. So the onset, duration of progress of various complaints in the history of the patient should guide you to prescribe agaricus for this particular state where there is epilepsy from suppressed eruption. This will mostly be seen in cases of children. In cases of children, one of the main areas that you will come across primarily affecting them will be skin problems. The first symptom, that if that is suppressed, all the problems start. What problem comes to you, just trace it back in a retro fashion to the skin problems and then find out the remedy. It will become very easier job for you to prescribe. And in the nervous system for agaricus, we see there is epilepsy from suppressed eruptions, and then the second symptom is uncertainty in walking and stumbling gait. Many neurological cases, upper motor neuron lesions, lower motor neuron lesions, you should think of agaricus. In female reproductive system, only one symptom is mentioned, prolapsus post-climacteric, bearing down pain, almost intolerable. Compare Lilium tigrinum, murex and sepia. So we had covered this in Lilium tigrinum somewhere and in sepia, that there is kind of a pushing outwards feeling. This feeling is there in agaricus. It will be seen that this feeling is there in various other areas of agaricus also. For example, you see the spine, it is very sensitive to touch. There can be a pushing outward feeling or very sensitivity feeling which the patient tries to avoid sitting on the back. Worse in the morning. This is also the scenario with Theridion. Pain is sore aching in the lumbar and sacral regions during exertion in the daytime and while sitting. This is also similar to zincum. And last symptom which we see in the back is every motion, every turn of the body causes pain in the spine, single vertebra sensitive to touch. So there is a symptom in the back which is mentioned that one vertebra is very sensitive to touch. You see all the remedies which act on the nervous system, and if they are very sensitive in the back, especially like the remedy Theridion, like the remedy Zincum, like the remedy Chininum sulf, they are going to act on the nervous system also. They are going to act on specific zones of the body which are hypersensitive. In this way we can prescribe these remedies. For example, one of my case which came with calcaneal spur, I had tried all the remedies but it was not helping. He had pain in a single spot in the calcaneal spur, and pain was as soon as he used to wake up and put his feet to the ground, and then the pain used to continue intolerably throughout the day, night, and the next 1-2 days. It never used to stop. There were some other things in the case which maybe I will take it up later, but Agaricus helped this patient. No other remedy was helping, and it was one of the cases where I found that one key symptom led me to prescribe Agaricus. I was not thinking about the remedy Agaricus to prescribe in such a case, but in this one instance I thought that Agaricus is mentioned in the repertory in one of the rubrics for heel pain, and I could prescribe it. Similarly, you have in the skin component for Agaricus chilblains that itch and burn intolerably, frostbite, and all consequences of exposure to cold, especially in the face. People who are in the north of India or in the US or in the Europe where there is lot of cold and something happens to the face because of cold exposure, it can be something that is affecting the nerves. Think of Agaricus. Sensation as if ice touched or ice cold needles were piercing the skin as from hot needles, burning, itching, redness of various parts, ears, nose, face, hands and feet parts are red, swollen and hot. Aggravation for Agaricus is mentioned after eating, after coitus, cold air, mental application and before a thunderstorm. We saw before a thunderstorm occurring many places like natrum carb, phosphorus, sorinum, etc. etc. Agaricus is very similar to Simicifuga, Calcarea carp, cannabis indica, Hyoscyamus, Caliphos, Lachesis, Nux vomica, opium and stramonium. So there are a lot of remedies you can think of when you are thinking of Agaricus, or I would say it is vice versa. When you are thinking of other remedies, suppose in your case you come across the entire case fitting the bill for Calcarea carb or something which is Nux vomica, but you feel that it should be a nervous remedy, and why should I give Nux vomica because it's a gastric remedy and it is not fitting what exactly the peculiar symptoms of the patient are. Go and check the repertory. You will find somewhere Agaricus mentioned for that peculiar symptom. It can be back pain, it can be some neurological disorder, it can be some extremities which have specific pain in the single spot, sensitive to touch. Then you will reach Agaricus. So when you are thinking of a combination of few other remedies, Simicifuga, Calcarea, Cannabis indica, Hyos, Caliphos, Lachesis, Nux vomica, opium, stramonium, think of Agaricus as well. And if there are cases where there are debauch from alcohols or drunkards who have been affected with bad effects of alcohol, think of Mygale, Tarantula and Zincum. And also in Korea you can think of these remedies, which is especially Zincum metallicum. So Dr. Sharad Unial, you have asked on YouTube, does humid weather aggravate pain of Agaricus? I am not sure the humid weather aggravates the pain of Agaricus, but if you find it in the repertory in the different materia medicas, this modality being present, then you can think of it. Although the modality which is very strongly mentioned over here in Agaricus is that there is mental application and before a thunderstorm. So something that happens before the storm comes which affects him, and especially the cold air. So it can be something that is a cold air rather than a humid air, which may predispose for you to think of remedies which act on humid atmosphere or humid hydrogenide remedies. Per se, Agaricus doesn't look like a hydrogenide remedy, it is a purely neurological remedy, and diurnal complaints, cold air exposure, and lot of sensitivity, hypersensitivity should make you think of Agaricus as a remedy. So that brings us to the end of Agaricus as a remedy which we can think of. The next remedy which we should also take up, which is very similar to Agaricus, is cannabis indica. Many patients who are, you know, under the influence of drugs or under the influence of some strong uh, medications, allopathic medication, they will be in this state where you will not understand what to prescribe. For example, they will be very forgetful, they forget last words, ideas, they begin with a sentence and forget what they were telling and they stop speaking, and they are unable to recall their thoughts on account of lot of other thoughts which are crowding his brain. This is the state of cannabis indica. Similar remedies mentioned are anacardium and lacan. They are constantly theorizing. You will have come across cannabis indica as a person who fantasizes a lot of things, almost like a sulfur state. But giving sulfur is very easy because it comes in the repertorization in the analysis too many times. Cannabis indica, for prescribing cannabis indica, you will need to understand it in a opposite direction of sulfur, where there is more of theorizing with laughing immoderately. You will see many patients, it does not mean that the patient has taken drugs or is under the influence of some medication, but it is their state which should point you to cannabis indica. And how will you come to that state is that they will laugh immoderately at every word or every sentence. This is one of the very key observations that you need to do when you observe the patients in clinic. They will have an alternating state. Sometimes they will laugh too much or do a lot of fun and mischief. At other moment they will probably be crying and moaning. So in the case taking itself, they will be very jolly, happy-go-lucky in the beginning, and as you progress with the case, they will probably be at some point of time so much moaning and crying that you will feel pity over them, or you will ask them what's the matter in the case taking if some point has hurt them. Last symptom which is there, or not last, but there are a couple of more symptoms, which is that there is great apprehension of approaching death. It is almost like aconite or arsenic, where they feel that some death like scenario is happening with them and they constantly fear. Delirium tremens, which is also the case of alcoholic drunkard, which we saw in Agaricus. There is over here, there is excessive loquacity, exaggeration of time and distance. So you can almost understand how a person under the influence of drugs or alcohol behaves. He may not understand what the time is or what the distance is. Time seems too long, which is also the case with Argentum nitricum. We read it in Argentum nitricum that time passes too slowly. A few seconds seems ages. He will feel that if I have come to a place, it is just a few minutes, it seems like it's been a lot of hours. The time and distance idea is very much stretched. This will be presented in many different ways in clinic. For example, the patient will tell you that I am taking treatment from a doctor since the last month. My problem is there since the last 10 years. But still, there is no cure which is happening, and he will laugh at that moment. That should be your way to prescribe cannabis indica. Sensation as if calvarium were opening and shutting, also the case with semicifuga. Distance seems immense, a few rods seem miles, which is the same which I told earlier. And there is a very peculiar sensation in perineum. This has been observed in many provers. Sensation of swelling in the perineum or near the anus as if sitting on a ball. With if it is with the great quantities of ropey mucus in urine, then think of China. Compare cannabis indica with the other remedies which are belladonna, hyoscyamus and stramonium. So you can go back to read these remedies, and if you get a chance to go through my lecture on belladonna, hyoscyamus or stramonium anytime in your study sessions, do go and watch it. There may be something which I may have added from my own experience. So we cover these two very good remedies which act on the brain, a neurological remedy and a remedy which is to be given in cases by subtle observations, like patients who are laughing or who are constantly fantasizing few ideas but never materializing their thoughts or never executing on them. That is how you should reach cannabis indica. So we call it a day, and we'll see again tonight by 9:45 10 p.m. because I have a few other meetings, and then we'll meet up again. For anyone who wishes to ask any questions related to fever, I have kept a session, fever questions answered. You can ask your fever questions in the story. There is a question going on in the Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to know where to type your question, there will be a post. You can type your question related to fever, and I would make sure I answer that in the session which I'll be undertaking tonight. Uh, and that's it for today's session. If anyone has any question, good to see you, Dr. Ishwarya, Dr. Rohit Kumar, Dr. Sid Gaurav, and Vishu Reddy, Homeo Health Corner, Poonam Khurane, you are also always there, Dr. Shailendra, and on YouTube, Dr. Sailesh Kumar. Thank you for joining, and I hope you all can also go through Alan's keynotes side by side and enrich your knowledge and try to build up your own ideas of how you will apply Alan's keynotes in your practice.